So now let us come to the internal evidence of geography. I will be, if you can, again the passages, ultimately you understand I have a limitation. I am basically dealing with passages, which most of us are not used to or familiar with dealing with. But then that is how the subject is. So basically this is a passage in Shatapatha Brahmana. This is Brihadaranyakam. Now you will wonder that Brihadaranyakam, what has it to do with geography? It is supposed to be a book, what they call the Upanishad, and generally, of course, you will remember always, Upanishads in 600 BC, remove it from your mind. They are all part and parcel of the same tradition coming from the same Vedic epoch, okay? And I will not repeat it often, but then you will keep it in mind. It is 3940 BCE to 2860 BCE, which I will just make a clear statement. It is pre-Harappan. Whatever people call pre-Harappan, we are not even talking about contemporary Harappan, they are pre-Harappan, but not too far removed from the Harappans. So now this is very interesting. We have a description here. This Upanishad Prakarana, we have a question being asked by Bujju Lahayani to Yajnavalkya in the Shastrartha which is going on in the Sabha of Janaka Vaideha. But most probably the Shastrartha is happening in a Bahudakshini Yajna, which is actually happening in Kurukshetra. That is not very important for us. But then what is being discussed there? Bujju Lahayani asks, do you know where the Parikshita Janmeja, Parikshit's son, Janmeja and his brothers, where did they go? The answer is, they went where the Ashwamedha Yajis go. Again he asks, where do the Ashwamedha Yajis go? Now these are very important to establish the geography. I am not telling a story actually. What I am doing is I am sieving facts out of fiction. There is a story going on, but it has a verifiable content. Physical evidence is there, lying out for us. And what is it? To describe where they have gone, he says, Dvatrimshatam vai Devarathanyani ayam lokaha. Which simply means this loka, this is a pronoun, and which is being used, he says, this loka is 32 Devarathanya. Now what is this 32 Devarathanya? Like if somebody asks, how big is Delhi? You are going to say, it is 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers or something like this. So what do we need to know to understand how big would be Delhi? We understand that we need to know the unit. If they have used kilometer, or they have used mile, or they have used krosha, we need to know that unit. Then only we will have an idea of what they are talking about. Now here he has used 32 Devarathanya. Now 30 years I have been studying this text. And I have been wondering as to why he says 32? Why not 30? Why not 28? So 32 is a significant word. And then later on he says, twice of that is the earth around it. Now this is a very interesting thing. This loka is 32 Devarathanya and twice around it is earth and twice around it is sea. Now this generally is taken as a fabulous account like the Puranas. Then even they describe Jambudvipa, then they talk about Saptadvipa Vasundhara, then they talk of, Kshira Samudra, they talk of Dadi Samudra. So is this something fabulous like that, or is it a fact? Now that was a challenge. Now here we had Shankaracharya. Of course Shankaracharya is there. The redoubtable Shankaracharya is commenting upon this. What he says there is Devarathanyam. Now this is what we want to know. We have lost the tradition of this meaning. The meaning tradition is lost. Word is coming through tradition. Now we have to establish that lost tradition. Now it is a very crucial word, because if we understand that word, we know what geography they are talking about. Whether they are talking about Central Asia or they are talking about something else, it's a cakewalk once you understand this sentence. Now what is it? He says Deva Aditya. Devarathanyam he is describing, he says Deva is Aditya, Tasya rathasya gatya anya yavat parichidyate desha parimanam tavat Devarathanyam. That way appears to be an interesting definition. What he says is, the passage of sun, the distance that the sun moves in a day is Devarathanyam. Now, anybody who has studied little of science is now naturally going to question, because the sun doesn't move, it's an apparent motion, and it depends upon what? It depends upon the height of the observer. If you do not understand, I will, what to take? But then that is where the ritualistic understanding comes in aid. We know that in all the Vedic texts, when we say Angula, whose Angul is it? Is it elephants? No, it is the Yajamana's Angula. We say Prakrama, the foot or the step, whose? The Yajamanas or Advaryus. So the same paribhasha we used, and then we got a definition, a nice, beautiful scientific definition of a unit, which would fit into any 20th century definition of, let's say, meter or kilometer, whatever you wanted to define. And what is it? It's a beautiful, elegant definition. It is the curvature of earth which gives us Devarathanya. For a height of a human observer, whatever he sees the eastern horizon to the western horizon, of course, that's another story as to how does one go find about it. How does a Vedic find about it? Well, that's a different story. But then this definition gives us a very fair measure. Devarathanyam is 9.6 kilometers. And then not only the story doesn't end here. When we mapped this Devarathanyam onto some known topologies, what we get? 32 Devarathanyam. Before that, I am just giving you I am jumping ahead. What actually you see is Lothal. Do you see Lothal here? That is in the one of the Janapadas of Veda. I will show later. Then we have Dholavira, we have Mohenjo-daro, we have Harappa, and we have Kalibanga, Banali, Rakhikhedi. Very interesting. Okay. Now all these sites which we see, and what we see is when we map this Dvatrimshatam Devarathanyam, we get a area which is nothing but the Kurukshetra. It is the dimension of Kurukshetra, the sacred land of Vedics. It is the land where they throng to do their yagas, their rituals. Whether you are a Videha king or whether you are a Gandhara king, you would be coming for your rituals to the bank of Saraswati in Kurukshetra. It's a sacred land, common to all. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre. It is Prajapatehe Uttarvediyat Kurukshetra. Now we have this Kurukshetram vai Devanam, Devejanam, Sarvesham Bhutanam, Brahma Sadanam. So like that, this is a ubiquitous place. Nobody can deny this. And that Kurukshetra is 300 kilometers in its dimension, interestingly. And then, twice of that is earth. So we add 600 kilometers to that and we map. From Kurukshetra, if you take center, Thanesar as center, 900 kilometers is almost Gandhara. That is the easternmost, the northernmost Janapadas. And then, if you go east, towards Videha, it is again 900 kilometers. If you go west, when you reach Dholavira, again it is 900 kilometers. You are ending the land known to them as Aryavarta. So that is the end of earth for them. And the story again doesn't end here. It has a very further, the sentence is Dvistava Samudra Pariyati. I was very surprised myself when I saw, if I double this 600, I get 1200 kilometers. If I go from this Dholavira port, 1200 kilometers, where do I go? Surprisingly, I go to Oman or Muscat. That is precisely the place which is very well known in later Harappan sea trade. It's an interesting thing. He is describing something, Aakho dekha hal. He is not talking about anything fabulous. Okay, that is what I wanted to show through a passage in Shatapatha Brahmana, and then we will relate this, and I will show you the geography of Janapadas through the internal evidence of Veda. People generally believe, whenever somebody talks of Janapadas, they say, oh, you are talking about Bauddha Kala. Where is Janapada in Veda? Then I say, what are these all sentences doing? Let us see the sentences along with the Kurukshetra, of course, is the center. And then we have Kuru and Panchala. In between Ganga and Yamuna, we have Kurus, and across Ganga, you have Panchalas. You can see the sentences quoted below, and this is just a what we call Ding Matram. Okay. And then we have Surunjay to the north and Matsya to the south. Then we have northern Janapadas, Gandhar, Kekai, Madra, and we have eastern Janapadas, Kosal, Videha, Kashi. And then we have a very interesting sentence here. We can see the Bhallari Gatha there, quoted in the so-called Bodha and Dharma Sutra. People say it is a late Vedic text, but nothing doing. It is actually part and parcel of the same Vedic ritualistic manual. What it says is, you can read it there. It is Gatva Punastomena Ejata Sarva Prusthayava. It is actually in some portion, some prescription of a ritual. If you go somewhere, what is it? Sindhu Sauvira Anartha. Sindhu Sauvira Saurashtra Anartha Avanti Vidarbha Magadha Anga. What are they? These are the Sankirana Yonaya. These are the boundary Janapadas of Aryavarta. Very interesting. And then there is a further sentence saying Arattan. Arattan Karaskaran Pundran Sauviran Bangan Kalingan Gatva Punastomena Yajeta. You need to do Prayaschitta if you go to Aratta. What is this Aratta? You will again wonder. This Aratta does not find any mention in Indian literature. But it is the southwest Iran. It is that portion which has been talked by Sumerian epics in 3000 BC. That is Aratta. And it is talked by these Vedic texts. As a Janapada, you should not go. If you go there, you do penance. And then we are talking about Karaskara, most probably Kasgar. Of course. Now, if we map those things that we saw in this thing, very interesting. You see the boundary Janapadas? They are really on the boundary of this Aryavarta. And all the outside Janapadas, they are really outside this boundary. Now, this is what is internal evidence of the Vedas. Now, with this, now we will go to the Saraswati. People talk of Vedic Saraswati. It's a very favorite of many people. Vedic Saraswati. And then they have a Rigvedic Saraswati, which is a mighty river flowing all the way from some glacier, flowing all the way to the seas, and it is this and that, and nothing doing. We don't have such speculative approach. We have a passage. It's a very elaborate passage. And you will see the wonder as to how detailed the ritual is. There, in fact, let me tell you a very interesting point here. Vedas describe their rituals to be practiced generally wherever you are. Like you want to do Agnihotram, you want to do, let's say, Darsha Purnamasa, you want to do Somayaga, you want to do this and that. You would be doing it wherever generally you are, but of course not in the house or in your inhabitation, not in the village, not in the town. You will be going out near some river or some forest, and then you will be doing it. But now, throughout this Vedic text, there are only two rituals which are speaking of a particular location. And this is a real challenge to even those people who traditionally believe that Vedas are all-time teachings. Sanatan, they say, Apaurusha. For them also this is a great challenge, because here we are finding a description where they say Saraswatya Vinashane Dikshante. Categorical sentence. Do your initiation procedure of Saraswati Satra at Saraswati's Vinashana. What is Vinashana? Where the Saraswati disappears. Again, then the procedure goes on. Shamyam Parasati. We will be using this. If time permits, I will be able to show you how actually Saraswati Satra is being done. You have also seen the video where I was trying to explain as to how actually that Saraswati Satra is done. And there, interestingly, here in this Saraswati Satra, this is a moving ritual. Again, this is also one of the unique specialities. All rituals otherwise are static. Wherever there is a static, what we call Vedi, and there we perform. Here, the whole Vedi is on wheels. It's a Vedi on wheels. It is like the Jagannath Ratha, and it is being pushed on the bank of Saraswati. Just imagine how flat the bank of Saraswati is. And what they do is, they throw a stick. Wherever it falls, the next day, the whole this Vihara is shifted to the next location. And there is a categorical saying where they say, Yadi Vishame Nipatet. It is like the Gulli Danda game that we Indians play. If the gulli falls into some uneven place, the next chance is wasted. So what they do, you get one more chance to throw it again, so that it falls on an even place where it can be again hit. So like that, this Shamya, if it falls in water or somewhere else, you have to take it out and then you have to move there and so on. So it's a very interesting ritual, well described. And again, very interestingly, there is a distance describer here. There is again a unit used to describe the distances of Vinashana to Plakshaprasravana and Vinashana to the confluence of Drushadvati, which are such measures that they have brought, for me at least, this Saraswati from a fictitious Vedic Devata. Saraswati is it is first of all, Rigveda Saraswati is not actually a river at all. But then we have these Vedic ritualistic manuals showing us without any doubt that it is a river, not only a river, it has definite parameters as we will show just now. Now, the unit used here was, there are certain small difficulties. Here the unit used is Ashvinam. Last time we saw the unit Devarathanya. But another interesting thing was, Tandya Brahmana had a passage which actually initially I didn't know, and I just made a leap of intuitive faith, and then I could connect this Ashwin. I'm speaking historically. Last year I published this result in Lucknow conference, but it has been not yet talked of in the scholarly circles. They are probably afraid of talking such things. And then what I see is Ashvinam, I get a very clear understanding of it. It is the movement of this yaga in 6 months of time, and that is around 9 kilometers. It is in fact mentioned in the same passage, all these three, Yojana, Ashwin and Anyam. And you can see the relation, Yojana is less than Ashwin is Devarathanya, and we get a fair measure of Ashwin, which is verifiable by other secondary means also. So now, coming to the geography of Kurukshetra. I have mentioned certain things. Actually, this is a refutal of many of the presumptions that people have about Saraswati. You can read some of them. Shutudri definitely joins Vipat. The Vedic literature is absolutely clear that Shutudri is not a tributary of Saraswati at all. Then we have Yamuna. Yamuna is not a tributary of Saraswati at all. It is joining Ganga right in this complete epoch. So if somebody wants to talk of something ancient, some other glaciation period when Ganga is not there and the Himalaya is not there, we are not holding them accountable. But at least in this epoch, nothing doing. Saraswati is a rainwater fed river having an origin not in the hills but in plains of Kurukshetra. So this is, I will show, it is confirmable. Now look at this, it is a Google map image. The things have not changed much. The Saraswati is still visible, as you have already seen in the video, but of course the remnants. The water is not there, but the dry bed is unmistakable, and it is 5 kilometers wide generally. And well, if you see, this is Saraswati. This is not, we didn't decide it. Okay, by the way, let me be clear. This is already decided on many bases. Geography, people have studied geologically, hydrologically, archaeologically, and so on. And then they decided the course. We have used this as a base map on which we have mapped our distances, and we are trying to find out whether these places, particular locations which are now lost, their tradition is lost. We do not know where Vinashana is. We do not know where Plakshaprasram is. That is what we are interested in finding. So now this is Saraswati, this is Drushyadvati as shown by them, and of course this is the Kurukshetram between Saraswati and Drushyadvati, and we have this Prachistali, which is the present day town of Thanesar, Brahmasarovar, etc. That is Prachistali. And then we have the Khandav, we are also sitting in it, we are in Khandav Prastha, right? And then we have this Turgana, which is Tohana, Patiala district, and this is the Parinath. This is near Suratgarh, now this description, again this is a description in the Veda, okay? The internal evidence only is pointing towards such a description. It's quite a fabulous description where a lot many details are there. And then what we saw, there is an interesting issue there. If somebody would say this is all extrapolation and somebody later period has gone into that, etc., then there is a counter evidence. They are saying Marava is to the north of Saraswati. Now who in the right sense would leave the Thar desert, and instead of saying Thar desert is the Maru, why should they say that Maru is to the north of Saraswati? And it is somewhere near Hanumangarh. It is in fact the Dabbali town. Dabbali Mandi is in that old sand dunes are being referred as Maru. They don't refer to this Vinashana in the Maru. That's a green pasture land for them. It is not a Maru at all. Remember, that is that epoch, and their Maru is to the north of Saraswati. Now these are very interesting things, details. How did we get a confidence into it? Now note this confluence of the Saraswati with Drushyadvati, okay, unmistakable. We can see the northern, okay, this is the confluence of Saraswati, and what we wanted to know was What is the distance? That passage I have not commented, but then actually that passage says, once we start from Vinashana, start throwing the stick, go upstream towards Saraswati, then what happens is, after crossing 8 Ashvinas, you reach a river called Drushadvati. That Drushadvati might have water or might not have water. In both cases, you have to cross it and then proceed towards Saraswati. And then you have to proceed further 36 Ashvinas, and then you will reach a place called Plaksha Prasravana, where the yaga ends, and from there you take your final bath in Yamuna, not in Saraswati. You are not supposed to take bath ever in Saraswati. For 22 years, you are walking on Saraswati and you are not taking bath. Funny, they are very primitive people probably. Anyway, the point is, it's a very interesting yaga, and what they do is, what we have to do, I am not going to do that yaga. What I am going to do is, I am just going to map 72 kilometers from that confluence. And what do I see? If you see it along with me, you will wonder that it is coming to a place where there is a bifurcation of Saraswati dry bed. Already known to the scientists. They have been already talking that this is an inland delta. They are not aware of the Vedic scripts. They are not manufactured. This is there, plain evidence, physical evidence. And what I do, when I map nearly 72 kilometers, you can see that Google map, and you can do it. Everybody can do that experiment again. And what do we get? We get a place where the Saraswati is bifurcating, its stream is widening to 11 kilometers and more, and they call it a depression which caused the demise or disappearance of Saraswati. Scientists have been talking about this without knowing the Vedic reference, and now what I get is no reverse engineering, frankly speaking. This gave me the confidence that the distances are right. And then I could get the other side of the picture. That is what I am banking upon. When I map this 32 yojanas, which was also the 32 Devarathanya, you can say the same, we reached Prachistali. From bifurcation, from this Saraswati Drushadvatyo Sangamat, if we come to 32 Devarathanyam, we get to Prachistali, and if we get to further 4 yojanas are remaining, 4 Ashvinas are remaining, I made an arc, just a blind arc. I wanted to know what all things are there. And then I saw a place, a village named Foksa. Now that set mind working, Foksa. And what am I searching for? Plaksha. It gave me a straight clue that is it a Apabhramsha? Let me go and verify. So when I actually went and verified, I will show you a few images of what we do, what actually we found. But before that, I would explain that Saraswat Satra, how it is actually done. This is the general Vedi Vihara. This is just for people who want to know more. Later on they can study. This is Sado Mandap, Avirdhan Mandap on wheels. And the fire, the Garyapatya and Ahavani Agni is on the ground only. And then there is a Yupa. Generally this Yupa is to be dug into the earth in normal yaga. Here what we do is, there is a wide base to it, and it is just dragged and just it stands on its own. So that kind of stuff is there. And then what they do is, this is the Shamya, it is to be thrown. Wherever it falls, and then you move, it is not moved the way it is just a convenience. The whole thing is moved one by one to the next place. And then what they say, all the description is there. How much is the vihara and how much is the throw is that actually we experimented and found. And we came to a figure 50 meters a day. How much do you progress? 50 meters a day. So how much will you progress in a, let's say 6 months? 1 ayana, basically 9 kilometers. That is the Ashvina. And in it will take to cover from Vinashana to Plaksha Prasrama, it will take 22 years. Now if we actually try to see an animation of how the yaga is to be done, you start at Vinashana, and at Vinashana what you do is, you do initiation procedure of 24 days, and then you do your Atiratra, and then you start. It will take 4 years for you to reach this Drushadvati Sangam. There you will cross it, and then as I will remind you, there is a sentence there. If Drushadvati has water, what it says? It says that Drushadvati is not already, it is already a seasonal stream. In the time of Vedic epoch, another testimony that in the Vedic epoch, Drushadvati is a seasonal stream, while Saraswati is a perennial stream, but only up to Vinashana. Now these are very interesting things. Then we start from there. There are actually many just like those Saraswat Satra. If somebody really studies, there is no escape from what conclusions I have derived. And actually what they do is, they leave 100 cows with 1 Rishabha. Now 100 cows with one Rishabha are left to graze freely and they have to become 1000. So now there is a race between two alternatives. Either you reach Plaksha Prasravana or those cows multiply to 1000. In either case the yaga ends successfully. So for 100 cows to become 1000 and only female cattle, the male cattle has to be culled. It takes, we calculated, it comes to around 16 years. And if you throw this samya, you will take 18 years in the best way to reach Plaksha Prasravana. Again a test that all these distances are right, the geography is right, and there is no mistaking as to what we are finding. So now this is the Vinashana, and of course after reaching Plaksha Prasravana, all these Yaga Vihara is to be left there, and then one is asked to go to Yamuna in a single day. 30 kilometers you walk in a single day from there, because you are no more throwing the Shamya, you just walk there, take your ablution, you already gifted those 1000 cows or whatever they have happened. And then interestingly, this is an evidence that Plaksha Prasravana cannot be in the hills, because this whole 20 square meter vihara, 20 meter by 20 meter vihara is to be pushed in even ground. Where is the question of Plaksha Prasravana being in the hills? And Plaksha is a name of a tree, and mind you, Vedas don't have merely conventional names. Vedic terms are at the best what we call yoga rudha. Their meaning has to have an anvarta. We don't find Dhanadasa in a Veda with being a pauper. We will not find such a thing. So we say Plaksha Prasravana, it has to be a Plaksha tree from which the trickle is coming out and forming a pond which becomes Saraswatya Shaishavam. And the story of Chavana, if you have heard of, Chavana Rishi Akhyan, if you have heard of Sukanya and Chadra, that is part of Jaiminiya Brahman in the same, it is actually being taking place at the Saraswatya Shaishavam. But that is another story, because that is a far off epoch. That is not in the epoch of Veda Shakha Pravachanam. So now coming to the few illustrations of as to what we found there. At the Vinashana, very interestingly, the bifurcation place right in the Saraswati, we have a Harappan mound right in the bed of Saraswati. So Saraswati is not flowing beyond. What more do you need? Right in the bed of Saraswati, we have this Harappan mound of 3000 BC. This is Barod. And then we have beautiful, if you see the land in the tract, in the river bed is so fertile. After coming of the Shatluj, canals, it is wonderfully fertile. And then both sides what we see is sand dunes, brackish water, and anywhere you drill in this river bed, the water is sweet. So these are the ways that they have already decided. Actually, we have not dug the well, we just asked the villagers, we confirmed whether the water is sweet or not. Now this is that confluence, and Ghaggar still floods. It's very interesting. They say Saraswati is no more. No, Saraswati is perennially no more. It still floods. If all these canals are removed, Saraswati will still flow. But it will be the Ghaggar which will be flowing, and not the real Saraswati, the southernmost stream. And I will show later. And this is the Prachistali. And then this is what we have, some images from Phoksa. And then this is, as we showed, the winter bath that we took in Yamuna. And then these are some FAQs, but I will leave it to you to ask the questions, and I will not answer them. Anyways, I am finishing my time, and I like to be within time. So these are some of the questions. That's the end of my topic. I covered it, and I just have a summary. And the internal evidence of the Vedic ritualistic manual shows the geography of Aryavarta in the epoch of the Veda Shaka Pravachana. And Saraswati is perennially flowing up to Vinashana near Anupgarh, Rajasthan. Kurukshetra of or Haryana is the sacred land of Vedics from time immemorial. It also is the cradle of civilization from which all the Brahmanical culture of Yajna radiates. I am not talking about the secular culture. They may be superior in secular ways, as even today they are. But we call it Asuri Maya. I will not elaborate on it, but not me. The Vedic texts call them as Asuri Maya. And this is what is called Daivi Sampat. Okay, so in Daivi Sampat, yes, it radiates from here only. And then further studies actually we will be covering in the next topic, so we should not be showing them here. I was thinking that if I don't have the opportunity, I would have brushed it here, touched it here. So that is how it is. And then I have these ancient migrations out of Kurukshetra are shown in Vedas. I am talking about the migration eastward by Videgha Madhava in Shatapatha Brahmana, recorded very copiously. And that is a migration out of Kurukshetra. We don't see any migration into Kurukshetra. Nowhere. Not a single iota of any hint even. And then stories of ancient times. This is another interesting thing. People, generally have a habit of mixing up things. Anything in Veda is not of the same epoch. Something which is happening in their times, it is obvious naturally. It is all the ritual. When you are asking to perform something, it is naturally you are performing in the present time. If they say something like Ime Raikva Paranaha, there are sentences like this. Ime Raikva Paranaha Mahavrisheshu Janapadeshu Akhyayante. What it means? In the Mahavrusha Janapada, these are the Raikva Parana villages. Now, naturally, this sentence means it is something in the present times. But if they say Uttaradyurehe Nirdhavati, the Manu's, that Manu, he added that ark, ark of Noah. That Manu's boat, it landed on a northern hill. Somewhere. When? Nobody knows. It is not in this epoch. So that one needs to distinguish such things. And when we talk of something very solid, based on evidences, I need to talk of something in this epoch, the geography that is I am discussing.